Hi, everyone. Welcome to the UCLAX Film Fest 2021. I'm Ashley Griggs, a member of the Entertainment Studies staff at UCLA Extension, and I'm thrilled to moderate today's Filmmaker Panel. We have an exciting lineup of filmmakers whose work is being showcased in this year's film festival, and we hope that you've had an opportunity to watch all of their films on the festival website. If you haven't yet, we'll drop a link to the festival website in the chat. Our conversation will take place over the next hour or so. Please drop any questions you may have throughout the session in the chat box, and we'll address those questions towards the end of the panel. Now, I'd like to introduce our panelists. Shreya Rana from the film Ayesha, Dhruv Uday Singh from Beauty and the East, Virgie Rodriguez from Dreamer, and Brandon Rabbit from Run Free. And to begin, I'd love for you all to please introduce yourself, your role in the film, and discuss the basic plot or logline of your film. Let's start with Brandon.
Hey guys, so grateful to be here. My name is Brandon Rabbit. I directed, co-wrote, produced Run Free, and it's about a Black country singer who is asked to sing the national anthem at a high school state championship football game and is forced to choose between career and cause.
Virgie, let's go to you.
Hi, my name is Virgie Rodriguez. I'm the writer, director, producer of the short film Dreamer. It is basically a film about a DACA recipient, Lily, who goes to Venezuela on a medical volunteer mission, and on her way back meets a TSA agent that isn't so welcoming. So it just talks about the plight of dreamers and DACA recipients in this country.
And Dhruv, how about you?
Yeah, thanks. I'm Dhruv Uday Singh. Very grateful to be here. I wrote, directed, and starred in Beauty and the East, a movie about sort of a contemporary spin on the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale, where things don't turn out quite as planned when the beast transforms into someone unexpected.
And Shreya.
Hi, my name is Shreya. I wrote and direct Ayesha. My film is about an independent gay woman who's made a life for herself and doesn't want to compromise it for anybody.
Welcome to you all. It's so fantastic to have you here with us. The films represented on this panel depict some fairly weighty topics, but in vastly different ways creatively. Can you tell us a little bit about the starting point of your film and how the idea initially came about? Virgie, let's start with you.
So the kind of how the story starts, or how I came up with the idea?
How you came up with the idea for the story. What inspired you to create this film?
What inspired me, I think, it really started with my mom's immigration story back when she first came to this country from the Dominican Republic out of a dictatorship, which was there for like 30 years. So that's really kind of how it started. And then from our previous administration, just everything that was being said about immigrants, specifically immigrants from Latin American countries, criminals, rapists, and how inaccurate that was. I think I then started researching about DACA recipients and dreamers, and just talk about them potentially being deported after they've been in this country for so long. I wanted to highlight how like messed up still the immigration system is, and that how is it that it's worse from when my mom came here to now? You would think it would have gotten better, and it's like gotten worse, and it's just a mess. So a lot of it was that, and a lot of it was I had been auditioning for stuff, and just scripts that were coming through, auditions that I was getting was still like, the narrative was still the same. It was still Hispanic made, speaks with an accent from this part of the world. And it's like, we keep saying, like I've said in the UCLA video, we want to tell our stories. Well, I think we have to take it upon ourselves and take that responsibility to tell those stories and change those narratives a little bit. So it was a culmination of things.
Fantastic. And such an effective moving film. So really excited to have it as part of the festival. Dhruv, in your case, you take a fairy tale, like as you mentioned, and sort of a comedic tone in some ways to talk about also some weighty issues. So what inspired you to create your film?
Yeah, I think my film also comes from a place of sort of personal experience. I had to have a very just to bounce off what Virgi was saying, you know, I'm an immigrant. I grew up, I was born and raised in Mumbai, but I've lived here for quite a long time now. And I've had to have a very uncomfortable conversation one time with a coworker about a very thorny issue about some racial stuff, but it kind of segued into this conversation that became about gender. And it was this very tricky intersection of topics like race and gender are not comfortable to talk about at the best of times. My way of trying to sort of deal with it, I think, was to let's see if I can put a comedic light on it and talk about it that way. I find comedies, it's almost like it's sugar pills, you know, it's a way to kind of deal with an issue that makes it easier to digest. So that was the origin of it, was trying to find a way to put the actual conversation almost verbatim into a film. And I found a fairy tale is the best way to do that, because now it's so far removed from our reality that you can almost talk about stuff, you know, through the lens of a metaphor.
Absolutely. Let's see, Brandon, your film takes on music, country music in particular, to dive into some also very, you know, weighty issues. So what inspired you and your team to create this film?
So yeah, my creative partner on this one, Fredley Brown, who I co-wrote the film with, and he stars in it. He also wrote the music. He's a singer-songwriter, a brilliant guitarist, and we've been looking to collaborate on a project together for a while, specifically a social justice project. And we had a bunch of different things that we were thinking of, and we were talking about the national anthem. I remember one day at lunch, and about like how, you know, how it's not necessarily how like it's easy for some to take a stand. And even as with Colin Kaepernick, who really was booted from the NFL and has had such a hard time, he's become an icon, and he's had endorsements and made a ton of money. And he, you know, he's somebody whose name is very much still in the zeitgeist. There's a bunch of people who are not Colin Kaepernicks or not Beyonce's. And it's a much tougher decision to take a stand and to speak out, because it might be their one shot, and they might not get another chance. And so we thought that was such a fascinating angle, because it is so important to stand up for what you believe in, but you also, what about like what's in your heart? And the difference between, there's a line in one of the songs, the cut of my cloth, the color of my skin and the cut of my cloth don't always have to be the same. And I just thought that was such an interesting take, and we went from there.
It's interesting too, because I feel like all three of the films actually all four of the films and represented in this panel touch on issues that were obviously relevant when you were making the film, which may have been a little while ago, but are still so resonant now, and probably even more so. So it's interesting how the filmmaking process can continually bring out things that are doing.
Funny thing about that is that the story that we actually we were going to tell was that after he sings or after he takes his stand and everybody is talking about him, another story breaks about like Me Too movement, and suddenly everybody's talking about that. And then an immigration story breaks, and then suddenly then they're kind of left in the dust. And we were going through this period, you know, during the Trump administration, especially, where it's like, it was hard to like stick with a cause for more than, you know, a week or 2 weeks, because there were so many that it is nice that you know, especially with this this social racial justice movement seems to have really stuck this time, and it is here for good.
Absolutely. And Shreya, in the case of your film, what inspired you to dive into the topics that you discuss in Aisha?
So because it was my thesis film, I was very sure that I want to explore sibling relationships. So me and my friend, we were brainstorming ideas, and then we came up with this idea, and then I started researching about it, and I found the statistics disturbing. And, you know, when we try to find statistics for honor killing, we find a lot. But when we specifically try to find statistics for honor killing for LGBTQ community, we don't find anything. So yeah, this made me realize like I have to do something about it and I have to make a movie.
Absolutely. You know, and jumping to that sort of idea of using and incorporating or being inspired by some sort of statistics or information that's out there that maybe you want to highlight. I noticed that in many of your films, you do use facts or figures or some additional source material at the end of your films to highlight some of these themes or issues that you present in your story. Can you tell us a little bit about how you and your creative teams decided what you wanted to highlight specifically and what you were hoping to get across with the endings of your films? Let's see. Well, Shreya, let's start with you. You know, at the end of your film, you present some different information about, as you mentioned, statistics related to, you know, violence against people in the LGBTQ community. Was there a particular creative choice that you made in selecting the material that you showed there, or that you wanted to, was there a point that you wanted to land at the end of the film?
Nothing like anything in this movie I haven't really planned, because like everything I feel, whatever I've studied in UCL extension, that came into place, that fell into place at the right time. I was making another movie with my instructor. I was working on it with my instructor Monique, and she like told me in that class that you have to present statistics if you know try to show something like this, because if you're making a story which is very relevant to the society, you cannot give a wrong message. So in this story, if you see, you know, like if my hero dies, I have to show like it actually happens. And about the statistics, when we try to, you know, if you see, most of the statistics are from 2018 or from the UN. There's nothing specific about India and specific about LGBTQ community in India. So yeah, it was not easy to find. Like still, even if you research it right now, you won't be able to find it.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful that you were able to share and shed some light on that information in your film. Virgie, you also are dealing with, you know, some very relevant and, you know, real information that you present at the end of yours. Is there particular reasoning why you wanted to end the film in the way that you did?
Oh, there was a reason. And I think for me, it was just, again, kind of what I said before, you know, I used a speech the last speech Ronald Reagan gave as president back in 1989, before he was going to leave office. And it was about immigration. And it was a really beautiful speech about immigrants coming to this country and what it stood for them and what America stood for, and this shining beacon, right, in the world to where to come to, right, to have a better life, etc., for your family, wherever you're from. And I just find it really interesting that it's the opposite of that right now. And it's just like, again, it's just what, you know, to think that babies or kids were taken away from their families and put in camps, in these detention camps and in these places, and crying for their families, and security guards laughing at these kids, and that's recorded. Like, that audio exists. Anybody can pull it up and listen to that, and it's disheartening and it's kind of disgusting. So it's just like, and that happened on our watch. Like, that really? Like, so it was definitely very intentional. And I did that on purpose. And anybody can pull up that speech. It's up on YouTube, the whole speech. I only used part of it for the film. And I wanted to highlight the better parts of it, but it's a beautiful speech. And I just think, you know, especially with the two parties and where we're at now, where we were then, it just, you know, it was very intentional. And I hope people get something from that. And I have had people on both ends be like, I didn't even understand what Dreamers or DACA recipients went through, and wow, who we were back in '89, who we are now, like what's happening. So I'm hoping it sparks people to talk about this issue and want to change something. I know it doesn't happen overnight, but I'm hopeful. So I hope it did that for the audience as well.
Absolutely. I can say from my perspective, it was very impactful. And it also, I think, encourages you to look up more information about situations that are happening all around us. Brandon, in your case, there's sort of a twist ending that leads to, you know, the way that your film Run Free ends in terms of the national anthem, and some information that you share about, you know, the Black national anthem at the end of that film, I think really resonates. And so I'm just curious if there's any information you can share there about maybe the creative choice to end the film in that way, and you know, to showcase the difference in the versions of the national anthem.
Yeah. So quickly, I just want to say, Virgie, I thought that I had never heard that speech, and I was blown away by it. And I mean, the level of hypocrisy is not surprising, I guess, in 2021, but it was still, I mean, it was a brilliant use of the speech. Okay, so Run Free actually had its world premiere in February of 2020, like a few weeks before the pandemic. And in that version of the film, there is no explanation of the song. For anybody who doesn't know, Lift Every Voice and Sing is considered like the Black national anthem. And honestly, I did not know much about it before we started this project. And we had this idea to take the lyrics from Lift Every Voice and Sing with the melody of the Star Spangled Banner. And it was such a beautiful ending that was kind of ambiguous, but anybody who got it really got it. The problem is most people did not get it. Most people didn't know and actually it's funny because since this last summer, it played a lot more people are talking about it, even played before the Super Bowl. But before that, nobody had heard it. And we premiered at the Pan-African Film Festival, and the audience was largely a Black audience. And we did the Q&A after, and we were shocked like that. Pretty much nobody like under 40 knew that song. All young Black people did not know. And so the ending went over their heads. And it was really tough because I didn't want to like spell it out for the audience. But I also like didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to shortchange the message. And so I really struggled back and forth. And I mean, I'm sure you guys, you know, artists the same. I think I saw this this installation in front of the LACMA, and it's a slavery, and it's like it's columns of, I believe slaves, and they all look exactly the same. And if you just look at the art, it's a beautiful piece of art on its own. But then when you read about it, and you're like, oh wow, it takes on such another level. But I wasn't sure as an artist, like, do you just let people interpret it for themselves, or do you spell it out for them? And so in this case, we decided to like redo the ending and put that in there. And Fredley wrote that original version of Lift Every Voice and Sing, the instrumental that plays at the end. And then since the film kind of like really deals with shades of gray and tries to see both perspectives, we thought, why don't we take pictures from what happened last summer, but let's show like, you know, that where people are meeting in the middle. And so we added that, and I'm so glad that we did it. It was such a beautiful touch that I was scared to do, but I'm glad, and I think it's a much more powerful ending.
That's fascinating. And I think, you know, people can take for granted how many choices go into crafting a really strong short, how challenging that can be to create a short that's effective in such a brief amount of time. Drew, did you find any challenges in the filmmaking process as you were making your short? And is there anything that you'd like to share that may encourage other filmmakers of shorts, or you know, just warn them about potential issues that could come up in the filmmaking process? Obviously, there are always things that come up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, most of the filmmaking process, I'm sure the three of you other filmmakers would agree, is like a lot of obstacles, and then you kind of find creative ways to go around them, which was definitely the case. For me, the thing that helped a lot was the genesis of the short was Kate Scott Campbell, who plays Belle in the movie, we were on this thing called Sunday Company at the Groundlings Theater, which is a theater here in LA where we put on like a weekly sketch show. And so I wrote it, and then we performed it in front of a live audience for 4 weeks and kind of honed it that way. And that helped a lot to just find the laughs and find where, there's no better teacher than a paying audience, because they don't care. They only laugh at what's funny. And so that was very helpful to kind of workshop the thing before shooting it. The big obstacles, I mean, honestly, just like many, it's a series of kind of logistical things of finding the right location. And then when you get to the location, you find like, oh, you can't really shoot from the angles you necessarily wanted to, or those kind of things definitely came up. So a lot of it, and we shot it in one day, and so a lot of it was just kind of cramming it all in, just like any independent filmmaking thing. If you have the right crew of people who are kind of passionate about something, I think you can get pretty much anything done. You can shoot 15, 20 pages if you want in a day, if you have those people. So that was very helpful to just have a really, really good crew. I think one of the obstacles in terms of the endings, since you were talking about endings, was finding a way to end it that was sort of happy and fairy tale-y, but without being saccharine or without being fake. And I think at least I don't know if I accomplished that necessarily, but I hope I did. And I think one of the ways was to kind of do a fairy tale thing and then still put a button on it that comes back to the sort of joke, that still comes back to like, okay, it's not just that. Because a big thing for me was I never wanted this, at the end of the day, it is meant to just be entertaining and sort of a light, funny little movie, even though it's about real stuff. And so I always wanted if there is a message of it, to be sort of undercut a little bit by the comedy. I wanted that to just be just below the surface of it.
And I think comedy is always the best way to talk about, issues that are uncomfortable. Shreya, what was the most challenging part of the filmmaking process for you?
So for me, it was on the day, because it was before COVID. We shot it on 8th of March. So a lot of people didn't know about what the virus is. And we had people calling up a day before the shoot. And we didn't know, nobody knew like what exactly the virus, like how, like how dangerous is it? So like 4 or 5 people, they called up one day before set, and we didn't have a car on set. So my friends were, going for crafties, they were doing Ubers and everything. And also there was this marathon on the day. And we planned, so we shot it in a day, and we did it in 10 hours like we planned, but we started 2 hours later than what we scheduled for. So the marathon and COVID.
Wow, so it was just the universe throwing everything at you.
Oh yes, everything was going wrong. Then there was this plumber on the top floor. We had sound issues. Everything was going wrong, but we did it.
Well, congrats for getting through that.
Yeah, thank you.
Virgie, how about you? Did you find any challenges on set when you were making this film?
I think the biggest challenge was just time. We, like I had mentioned before, we shot it in 12 hours. We shot it in one day. Location helped because they have those different sets in one location, so that helped. But I think that was the biggest thing, in just staying. So there was some shots we didn't get, right? And for me, I learned if you wrote it and you're also in it, like shoot your scenes last if you can, because I was like, yeah, they're like, you want to go first? My DP and my co-director were like, you want to go first? I was like, sure, let's just get it out the way. And I realized I like was flubbing on my lines a lot, and that was just because I decided to go first instead of, there was a lot going on, and so that was like kind of a little bit of a challenge. But I think mainly it was just staying on schedule. But like Drew said, it's the same thing. If you have a crew that's really passionate about your project and understands like the importance of it and importance of telling the story and getting what you need to tell the story. Like there were still scenes I didn't get, you know, I wanted the character in a jail cell, you know, but we didn't need it. So, you know, we let that go away, you know, and so things like that, pretty much. And just, like I said, you know, getting permits, even though you're shooting on a set, things like knowing things like that, pretty much.
Great. And Brandon, did you come across any challenges while you were making Run Free?
No, it was a perfect shoot. Everything was smooth. Just, yes. So when I was watching your guys' shorts, I was like, man, what was I thinking with this? Like, I should have just shot it all in one location, you know, in one day, with a very small cast. But it was ambitious, and so we had a day and a half for like our interiors, and then a day for our exteriors. And the exteriors were shot 3 months after the interiors because of location issues. And so we lost like most of our crew. So for all the outdoors, it's a different DP and the DP's team, and most of that we just couldn't get. We wanted to keep it all uniform, so having to match that. And I needed like something, an exterior that would look like a middle America country, and really struggled to find something. And then I actually got married a few months after I finished shooting, and we were looking for wedding venues, and we found this venue that we got married at, which was a summer camp in Simi Valley. And when we were there, my wife was really like into the venue, and I was looking around. I was like, oh my God, this would be perfect to shoot our exteriors here. And so I was location scouting, and we ended up shooting there. But we couldn't start until the night. And it was our scene, which was the scene I was most looking forward to, shooting like this cop car. And I had so many really cool shots, and the interior I was going to do like through the grate. And we rented, and I spent a lot of time researching and renting this cop car that was going to be super like believable and awesome. And it got delivered to the camp earlier that afternoon and dropped off there. And one of my producers was taking care of that. And so finally we shoot all the other stuff we had to shoot. And last scene is the cop car, and it's 2 a.m. And one of my producers had to go home and go to bed. He had work early the next morning. So we're like, all right, let's do this. And the cop car is locked. We're like, okay, who has the keys? And we could not find the keys. And we're like, oh man, this producer must have gone home with the keys. And it was so devastating. Meanwhile, the cast is there ready to go. Everybody's ready to go. I didn't know what to do. So we ended up using my friend's pickup truck. And I had to cut so many shots, and I had to like, you know, we see the lights of the cop car, but we don't see the cop car. You know, it was like, and it was more like with what you don't see and tight, and it works. It definitely works. It wasn't like what I was hoping for, but it's fine, and it really didn't matter that much. Next morning, found out that the company that dropped off put the keys in the gas tank. Like, and that's where they, like, you were supposed to open it. Like, who would ever know? I mean, we were looking under the regular spots, but who leaves a spare key? Like, who leaves the key in the gas tank? So it was there the whole time. But yeah, so that, it made for a little bit of a stressful shoot, but honestly, like, I kind of thrive. I think that's really like what makes you a real filmmaker, is when everything goes wrong and you have to still find a way to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and bouncing off of that, was there something that was really exciting about the filmmaking process? It sounds like there's a lot of exciting points, I'm sure, for all of you. But something really exciting about the filmmaking process that that you'd love to share, or something that you learned that you will carry with you as a filmmaker moving forward? Let's see, Virgie, how about you?
It's being at this festival. I did it all for the festival. No, I think that, you know, just something that I'm going to carry with me, obviously, you know, it's beyond like getting my feet wet and telling a story. I definitely, I love film, I love filmmaking, but the storytelling aspect of it is what I enjoy the most. And if it can move an audience either way, for me, it's why I do it. So this whole process, you know, from getting it done, finishing it, sending it to festivals, and the festival circuit, even though it, you know, it was, we were under COVID and there was a lot going on. I think now that things are opening back up and we're starting to attend some festivals, I think, you know, and meeting other filmmakers of color, telling, you know, people of color stories, like, it's just, I feel like there's like this little kind of locomotive going, energy that's starting to happen. So it's meeting other filmmakers that are telling like-minded stories. I think it's just really inspiring, because it's like, okay, we're telling the stories that we want to hear, right? That we for so long said that, you know, they don't exist. Those stories don't need to be told. And for me, that's just kind of what it feels like for me. So, yeah.
And Shreya, how about you? What's been the most exciting part of the filmmaking process, or the process with the film in general?
So what I learned from this is always choose your crew wisely, because on that day, everything was going wrong. But I had a crew of my friends. Most of them I knew for a year or over there. So everybody helped me a lot. And if I didn't have the people I knew, I wouldn't have done this. And also, like, always have 2 days to shoot. Don't try to shoot it in a day.
Schedule 2 days. That's a good note for everyone.
Yes.
Drew, how about you? Is there something that you learned or something that was really exciting about the filmmaking process that you can share?
Yeah, both those answers were spot on, I think, for me as well. The choose your crew wisely, especially, and yeah, I shot it over one day, and I feel that we definitely went, you know, several hours longer than planned because of that. Yeah, choosing your crew is for sure so key. You asked what was the most exciting aspect. I think, like, I mean, just watching your kind of vision come to life is incredible for me. Like, watching those first, you know, looking at the monitor after you've shot a couple things is, you know, like, this was a storyboard I drew, or this was like an idea in my head, and now it's actually somehow kind of sculpted into something in real time. That's very exciting. So I feel like that never gets old in the filmmaking process for me. That first shot is so exciting to watch come to life. I think something I learned was that I will always take forward is the idea that if you don't ask for it as the director, especially, you won't get it. You know, like, there were some things where I'm like, I kind of thought it would happen, and then when I looked at, because I edited it as well, when I looked at all the footage after, I was like, I never got that little shot. And I realized the reason I didn't get it, I just didn't ask for it. I just didn't say, like, oh, can we have this happen? I just assumed it was going to happen, and because it was in my imagination when I wrote it, or when I, you know, conceived of the shots and stuff. So I think, like, it's so important to just kind of ask for what you want when you're on set, and I think that's something I try to remember always as I make new stuff, is like, if you want a thing, no matter how obvious it seems to you, it's not to everybody else. You're dealing with a lot of other people when you're making a film. So just say it, just ask for it.
That's a great piece of advice too. You can't always get things in post, so make sure you get it when you're actually filming. Brandon, how about you? What's something that you were excited about with the filmmaking process, or something that you learned that you'll carry with you moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I even with that story I just told, I loved every second of it. And our first day of shooting, we filmed at a bar that we got a ton of extras, so very pre-pandemic, you know. We had a big crew, and we're having this brilliant musicians, and they're performing these songs live, and I've got a steady cam, and I'm going around the crew. And honestly, I was a kid in the candy store. And the biggest problem on the set was my AD was very annoyed with me because I was having too good of a time. And I wanted to, you know, joke with everybody, talk with everybody. And the truth is that, like, if it were up to me, I would be directing every day on set. I mean, I'm sure you guys agree, you know, it's like, this is what we're trying to do, you know, we're trying to do this for a living and do this every day. And, you know, as independent filmmakers and making short films, you know, these opportunities are few and far between. And so I really tried to, like, take in every moment, and I just, you know, I love it so much, and everything that they said is so true about the prep work and the the crew, but honestly, it's like, regardless if you're doing it at a very small level or a very big level, you know, just getting to make things and all the time you spend alone and with these ideas in your head. And then all of a sudden you have all these people who are coming together to make that a reality is such like a cool thing that's still like, even as I'm talking about it, really like blows my mind. Like, how did that happen?
And, you know, we will jump into some questions from the chat as well. Feel free, everyone, to continue to put your questions into the chat. We have a question from Cindy. If you all feel comfortable sharing, Cindy's curious what your budget was for your film and how you secured funding. Let's see, Shreya, let's start with you.
It was a very low budget. It was around, I think, 25 to 3. I don't exactly know, but yeah, 25 to 3,000. And my parents funded it. They helped me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let's see, Virgie, how about you?
I think for the most part, and a lot of it was just like assets and, you know, cameras and things. I was at like about 4,000 just about, but that's not including like film festival submissions and those fees. So once the film is done and you start doing the festivals, there's a whole other budget for that. And I funded it with my credit card. So that's how I did it.
Have people who believe in you and believe in yourself. That sounds like a good lesson there. Brandon, how about you? Anything you can share about your budget and how you got your funding?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm still waiting, you know, as we were talking about that panel before with all these, where all these like wealthy short film producers are who are waiting in the wings to finance shorts. But yeah, I mean, our budget was actually like 25,000 and it ended up being a little more at the end of the day. But and it was the biggest thing that done, and I went broke doing it, and also and my Fredley, my partner, creative partner, did put his money as well, and then we had some other smaller investors. Shout out to my mom and one of my good friends and people who really believed in us, but. We just wanted to make it, and we didn't want to wait around, you know, to spend all this time with the crowdfunding, and so it was really important for us to just like put our money where our mouth is, and to get it done and get it out there. But unfortunately, I don't know that I can afford to do it again. But the goal was to get a piece that maybe the next time around that somebody will see, okay, I'll put up the money to do this.
And Drew, how about you?
Yeah, my budget was 8 million, I think. No, I'm kidding. I think we spent like 7,000 total, and a lot of that was the location and post. Post was actually more of it because I have special effects and I wanted to do it as close to good as I could. I found someone who was really great, Victor Velasco, who to be fair, gave me a way better rate than he deserved. You know what I mean? He's worked with a lot of professional stuff where he should charge a lot more, but because he saw what the project was and he was kind of passionate about it, I think he was great about it. So a lot of it was that. My source of funds was, it's an unusual. I mean, a couple years ago, I was cast in a pilot, a CBS pilot, and after spending all the, whatever I had on rent and all that other stuff, it was what was left of my pilot money. I was like, let me just like put this into something that I want to do and invest it. And so that's where the money came from in this.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing. Like it's like there's ways of all types of ways of making shorts, and I've done it all different types. But I felt like you can only ask people favors so many times. You can only go to that well so many times. And I have asked so many people over the years to do stuff for me for free, or to say one day when it makes money, I'll pay. So it was really important for us on this round. Like we wanted to be able to pay people for their craft, and that is something that is so rare. you know, especially for us at our level, that it was a nice feeling. And we went through SAG, and we, you know, we did the insurance, and we paid the taxes, and we did it. We wanted to like do it the right way, even if it like doubled the budget. But you know, I probably wouldn't have, this was my first time making any kind of film and I had a lot of favors still, you know, in my back pocket, maybe it would have been different. But yeah, at some point, you know, people do have to get paid.
And I'm sure everyone on the film, as you mentioned, really appreciated being paid for their time and their talent. Let's see, we have a question about film festivals in general. So which festivals have you had the best experiences with, aside from UCLAX Film Fest? See, Drew, how about you?
I haven't. This is the first one I put this film into, so I can't say with this. I've been to other festivals for other movies I've been involved in as an actor, and though, you know, I mean, trying to think. I mean, I've never had like a bad experience, to be quite honest. I think I've always had a I don't know. It's always fun to just see. Yeah, I've never had a bad experience with one, so I can't say. But I don't know. South by Southwest is great. The Palm Springs Fest is really fun. Yeah, I don't have a bad thing to say about any of them.
Virgie, how about you?
There's been a couple, and again, because of COVID, it was hard, right? We weren't traveling. I think one of the first ones I got into that I was really excited about was the New York Latino Film Festival, which I think HBO and HBO Max are one of their sponsors. So that's always good to find festivals that have partners like that. Another one that I had gotten into was Diversity in Cannes Film Festival, which is specifically a short showcase, and they highlight people of color during the Cannes Film Festival as well. So that was exciting to actually participate in and go to. That was the first one I attended post-COVID, not really post-COVID, but you know what I mean. And then when we could travel again. And then after that, another one that I've enjoyed and I really liked was the Bentonville Film Festival, which is Gina Davis's film festival. And they highlight not only women in film, people of color in film, LGBTQ community. It's a great little community of filmmakers and diverse filmmakers. And the Gina Davis Institute is doing a lot for, women in media, people of color in media, and they really highlight that. So I like to find festivals like that too, that have kind of like a purpose attached to them. And it felt good to be around those filmmakers as well.
It's amazing the difference in scale that you can find in terms of film festivals, and especially with shorts. Brandon, what's your experience been with film festivals?
Yeah, so like I said, that we had our world premiere at the Pan-African Film Festival like a few weeks before the pandemic, and that was such an incredible experience. And I went to so many of the events and met so many filmmakers, and I was like, all right, this is going to be the best. I'm going to travel around the country, maybe even the world with this film, and meet so many amazing people. And then, everybody knows the rest of that story. And honestly, like, it's been a really tough experience with these virtual film festivals for the most part, because I get it. It's like the costs, and their budgets have been cut and they're not making the money. And so there was a lot of like cutting of things, and it's having a virtual mixer. It's just not the same, and meeting people. And so, it took a lot of the wind out of the sails. I got to say though, that I swear I'm not just saying this, but this festival has really like reinvigorated and showed what a virtual film festival can be. And hats off to Lizel and to Jaime, like the amount that they have reached out to us, and the engagement and the professionalism and the website and everything. It really has blown me away and got me really excited again about festivals.
Well, that's great to hear. Lizel and Jaime have worked very hard, so we're grateful for them for leading the way here. Shreya, how about you? What's your experience been with film festivals?
This is my third screening here. The first one was Marina del Rey, and it was not virtual. So like watching your film on a big screen was amazing. That's the best feeling. But then having your work recognized by your school is even better, because you learned everything here and now you're being promoted by your school, So this is the best so far for me.
Well, that's great to hear as well. We have a question about audio. So audio obviously plays a huge role in how a film is received, especially a short when you only have so much time to keep people's attention. So did you have any audio issues or anything that you would do different-wise? Let's see, Brandon, let's start with you.
Yeah, because the music was such a big part of our short, we spent a lot of time and money like to get it right, and we actually recorded everything live. All the music was recorded live. But then the mix and everything, and to be honest, like I met with a professional sound mixer and went to his studio, and he showed me everything he could do for us, and I was like so blown away, like wow, like, and the way he talked, like what this could be. He's like, oh yeah, it's only like $42,000. And so, you know, it's like, is there things that I would love to be able to do with this? Sure, we did the best we could with the money that we had and a lot of very talented friends, but there's always, you know, more you can do. But there's, I mean, audio, it makes or breaks it, you know, as you guys know. So it was very important for us to get the right people to get it on set.
Shreya, how about you? Were there any audio issues or challenges that you may have faced on set?
There were a lot of challenges. So like one thing I've learned from this shoot is you cannot control audio. You can do location scouts, you can do everything, but you cannot do something about, you know, like what if your neighbor decides to fix their bathroom? You cannot do anything about it. And because on that day, there was this marathon, so there were helicopters and everything. So yeah, we had a lot of audio issues. And you need to have budget for, you know, post, a lot of budget for post.
Drew, how about you? What was your experience with audio in the filmmaking process?
Actually, it wasn't too bad. Of all the challenges, audio was not the biggest one. So I can't really speak too much to that. Yeah, it was fairly smooth. We were lucky enough. We had a fairly clear day. Part of that was the location. It was this like somewhat isolated house in Koreatown in Los Angeles that looked like a French chateau, which, you know, I wanted it to look like that's how I found why I picked it. And I think that helped a lot, that it was in a very kind of suburban, you know, quiet part of Koreatown that wasn't too noisy. So yeah, I unfortunately I can't say too much about it. It worked out well with audio for me.
That's great. It's rare to find a quiet part of LA, so it's a good find.
Yeah, for sure.
Virgie, how about you? What was your experience with audio and making Dreamer?
I did work with enhanced media, and I worked with some sound folks on set. And yeah, shooting in LA, even on a sound stage or, you know, on a set, you have helicopters, you gotta wait, you know, you can't control sound, exterior sound. We had mics and mic packs and stuff. So in that case, it was good. Where I really kind of sound-wise, I realized what a difference it makes was in post, you know. So again, we didn't shoot at a real airport. We had to make it feel like a real airport. So the additional sounds that my sound team did really kind of enhance the film in that sense that I wasn't even thinking about. Little things that I heard after that, I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll change that later. You know, like there's a part I pick up a suitcase or I hit my suitcase and I hear the sound of me hitting the suitcase. I'm like, I probably would have cut that out. But again, I'm only looking at it because I wasn't looking at it before. So I think it was a learning process in that, but it's also, sound is like, especially when you're shooting, you can try to control it and be on a set, but like you can't. There's always like, and it's always like when you're shooting, of course there's a dog barking and you're like, okay, I gotta wait. Like, you know, so that was kind of my experience.
Yeah, someone brings a dog to every set just to, you know, mess with the filmmakers.
I almost brought my dog, Ripley, but I didn't. So for that reason, yeah.
We'll take two more questions. One this is actually for Drew and Virgie. For anyone who has appeared in their film, what's the most challenging part about being on both sides of the camera? Virgie, let's start with you.
I think for me, like I had mentioned before, it's like if you're behind the camera. My main thing was I didn't watch as much playback back. I would have been able to just make some slight adjustments to little things I saw afterwards. Like, I wish we would have caught it this way or something, or that reaction from the other actor, because I can't direct whoever else is in the scene, right? So for eye line purposes or whatever, I think that that's the most challenging thing. It's, again, and I was on crunch time, so I kind of bypassed watching playback. I had another set of eyes, my co-director, Diana Zollikoffer, who was helping me with watching for things like that and staying on story. So I wouldn't watch it back. I kind of delegated that. That was, but retrospectively looking back, going, you know, I should have maybe watched a couple of things back just to make sure I got what I needed to as well, which we did, but that's one of the things that I kind of through my, like, you know, walked away from and just said, okay, I trust that my team can get it, but that can get challenging, that part.
And Drew, what was your experience?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Bergie, because I concur completely. I did the same thing where I think I could have watched playback more than I did. I do think, I mean, it is amazing the era we live in the sense of I can't imagine how, you know, Orson Welles or Chaplin or whoever did it, where I'm like, you couldn't even see playback if you were on camera, which is such it's so fortunate that we're in an era when we can just, like, you can shoot something and immediately look at it, look at yourself, even if you were in it. So I should have done a little more. I did as well look at some playback in terms of the more fluid shots and stuff where I wanted to see how it was being captured. But I would have done it more. I think the biggest challenge from being on both sides, honestly, is like, you know, when you're editing it, it's like it's like it's tempting to be a vain idiot and pick the shot where it's like, well, my chin looks good in that shot, but you're not, you know what I mean? You're not like dialed, it's not the best performance or whatever, but it's just like this natural vanity kind of thing comes into it, and you have to kind of put that aside and just kind of pick like what serves the story best, what looks because you're, you know, you're in it yourself, and so it's a strange thing to look at yourself from a different angle. So some of it is that. I think also one of the challenges that comes up when you're doing it yourself, if you're not, you know, doing it with a studio or doing it on a show, you don't have stand-ins, you don't have like a second team to light it with. So you're doing all those parts of it as well as the actor, and so just kind of budgeting your energy out honestly for the day, where it's like, well, I'm gonna be standing up and on set for hours and hours, so you just have to kind of have the stamina for that. On the other hand, I think there's a natural adrenaline that you have as a performer when you're acting in something, so it's kind of helpful as well. Like you have your energy reserves are actually better in some way because you're in front of the camera and as well as behind it, so it helps.
And lastly, what's next for each of you? Shreya, what do you have on your plate moving forward?
I've been working on a feature. I'm writing it right now, and I plan to shoot it soon.
Well, good luck. That's exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Virgie, how about you? What do you have planned next?
I have a couple of things that I'm writing. I'm just kind of in the writing process and just vetting stories at the moment. There's still a few festivals that Dreamer's been accepted to, so I'll be kind of, you know, supporting those festivals online any way I can. But for the most part, I'm sticking to just writing and creating new stories. So
great. And Brandon, what do you have on the horizons?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a dozen projects, you know, available for hire, you know, that are just in various form of development, TV, features. I supervise the crisis line at the Suicide Prevention Center. And I wrote a short film that takes place there that I'm really proud of, that I was prepping to shoot in right before the pandemic. So I want to do that. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things that, exciting things that I want to do. And again, I just need to find those rich producers.
They're out there. We've been told they're out there somewhere. And Drew, what do you have planned next?
I'm also writing a feature that I'm working towards, and just doing a lot of acting projects, but those are mostly TV and stuff right now. But that's not with me involved as a filmmaker as much. So I'm trying to just, yeah, I'm in the creative process right now of making a feature.
Well, fantastic. Great, best of luck to each of you, and thank you so much for participating in our festival this year. We're so thrilled to have you as part of the festival and to have had you in our discussion today. So thanks for being here.